Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me? Good morning.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning.
We are delighted to meet with you all this month. We trust that you all had a restful break and a very great start this new year. If you are just joining us, we say you are most welcome. This is WAiC, Women Academic in Construction. It is a capacity building network, mainly for women and postgraduate students in the built environment. WAiC is set up basically to promote sound scholarship among women. Here at WAiC, we provide mentorship, we provide network, we provide collaboration for women. This initiative started sometimes last year, and since we started, we have had several exciting webinars. And today, we will equally have a very impactful one. The topic of today's webinar is actually mentorship chat. So mentorship is really critical for the survival or the continued existence of any process. And when we bring that home to our industry, we'll be talking about how the industry can reproduce itself or how the industry can outlive itself in terms of the people that run its processes. And so mentorship is important, whether it is formal or informal. We are very aware that within 2 hours, we cannot really exhaust the issues around mentoring, but we can at least stimulate discussions that will bring about intentional and systematic mentorship for academics in the built environment. And when I think about an academic, for me, I'm thinking about someone that has gone through the crucibles of a Ph.D. or someone that is still in the Ph.D. process. I also think of someone that is scholarly. I think of someone who has the ability to manage life and work, and also somebody that is in touch with contemporary issues and how those contemporary issues how his research or her research can contribute to those contemporary issues, and someone that has a sense of what the future research should be all about. And that's why our mentorship chat today, we are signposting it around the issues of the PhD journey, work-life balance, scholarship, current global debates, and the future of the construction industry. And today we have someone, a very big, like we say in Africa, a very big elephant, that would really be speaking with us today. He's an amazing personality. I like to refer to him as a sage. Yes, it's sage. It's sage because in all my interactions with him, personally or via emails, I find a person that is endued with so much wisdom. And that is exhibited in the depth, the robustness and richness of his counsel. I also see a man that is very cautious, kind, and very approachable. And I'm talking about no other person than Professor George Ofori of London South Bank University, UK. At the appropriate time, he will be properly introduced. But Prof would like to say we are super honored. We have a word like that to have you. Thank you for obliging us, and we do not take this lightly at all. Thank you so much, sir. And for everyone, sit back and enjoy, have a great time. Thank you. Tosin, you can please go with you can please continue.
Okay.
Yeah, Tosin, are you there, Tosin? Just a minute, please. Okay, Dr. Tosin, are you online? So you can take Prof's citation. So I'll just read from here. We most respectfully read the citation of Professor George Ofori. Okay. Sorry, please, just having some. Dr. Ofori obtained a BSc Building Technology in Quantity Surveying, first class honors, at the University of Science and Technology in Kumasi, Ghana, in 1975. He worked in that university as a teaching assistant, before studying for an MSc Building Economics and Management, where he got a distinction at University College London, awarded in 1977, and a PhD degree at the university in 1981. He was awarded a higher doctorate DSc degree by the University of London in 1998. He is a fellow of the Ghana Academy of Arts and Sciences. Dr. Ofori is also a member of Professional Built Environment Institutions. He is a fellow of the Chartered Institute of Building, fellow of the Royal Institute of Chartered Surveyors, and fellow of the Society of Project Managers, Singapore. Dr. Ofori is currently a professor at the School of the Built Environment and Architecture, London Southbank University, UK, which he joined in 2017. He is also the sustainability lead for LSBU. He was the Director of Research and Enterprise in the school from 2017 to 2019 and became the Dean in July 2019. He was a senior quantity surveyor with GA, Taki and Partners in Accra, Ghana, in 1981 to 83. From 1983 to 2017, he worked at the National University of Singapore, where he was promoted to full professor in 1999. He was the head of the Department of Building at NUS in 2002 to 2007, and director of the university level and multidisciplinary MSc Environmental Management Program at the university in 2010 to 2016. Dr. Ofori has been a consultant to several international agencies, including the Commonwealth Secretariat, International Labour Office, and the United Nations Human Settlements Program on construction industry development since 1978. Over the same period, he has also undertaken consultancy assignments for many governments, including Bahrain, Bhutan, Singapore, South Africa, Tanzania, and the UK. The modules which Dr. Ofori taught at the undergraduate and postgraduate levels at NUS include Building and Development Economics, Environmental Management, Sustainable Cities, Project Management, International Project Management. At LSBU, he has been teaching construction management projects, construction and procurement management, and information and human resource management. He has been invited to deliver lectures at universities in a number of countries, including China, Ghana, Hong Kong, Malaysia, South Africa, and other countries, including Bahrain. Dr. Ofori has been an external examiner of academic programs at under and postgraduate levels in Malaysia, Singapore, South Africa, and the UK. He has also examined doctoral theses for universities in many countries, including Australia, Finland, Ghana, India, Malaysia, the Netherlands, Singapore, South Africa, Sri Lanka, Thailand, Uganda, and the UK. Dr. Ofori specializes in construction management and economics at the project, company, and industry levels. His main subject research is the improvement of capacity and capability of the construction industry, especially in developing countries. His other research subjects are sustainable construction, productivity, human resource in construction, and professionalism and ethics. He has written some 127 journal papers, 6 books, 32 chapters in books, and 6 reports published by major international agencies. He has presented keynote papers at some 73 major international conferences and given public lectures and special talks to professional institutions in many countries. Dr. Ofori has written some of the seminal works on various topics in construction management and economics, including construction industry in developing countries, international construction, human resource development in construction, leadership development in construction, construction and the environment, and professionalism and ethics in construction. His works are quite frequently cited, and many of the frameworks and concepts he has developed have provided the basis for further research. The book he edited, Research Companion to Construction Economics, was published by Elgar in 2022. One of his papers, Ofori 2007, has been the most read in the leading journal, Construction Management and Economics, for several months. He has been the founding editor of one international reviewed journal, Journal of Real Estate and Construction at NUS. He is a member of the editorial board of over 20 such journals, including some of the top ones such as Construction Management and Economics, Construction Management and Engineering, Construction and Architectural Management. Dr. Ofori has been the principal investigator of a number of research projects awarded by the Building and Construction Authority of Singapore, Ministry of Manpower in Singapore, and Ministry of National Development Singapore and National University of Singapore. He has also been a co-investigator on research projects funded by Workplace Safety and Health Institute in Singapore. He has received research grant applications for the Australian Research Council, Engineering and Physical Sciences Research Council UK, Hong Kong Research Grants Council, and National Research Foundation of South Africa. Dr. Ofori is a visiting professor at Wits University in South Africa. He was a visiting chair professor at Tsinghua University in China for 6 years. Pardon me, please. He has also been a visiting professor at the Hong Kong Polytechnic University, University of Reading, UK, University of Science, Malaysia, and University Tun Hussein in Malaysia. He was the founding coordinator of the International Council for Research and Innovation in Building and Construction, CIB Working Commission 107 on construction in developing countries, and the joint coordinator of CIB TG95 on professionalism and ethics in construction. He was a member of the board of the CIB in 2001 to 2003. He is the deputy chairman of the International Board of TOST, the Infrastructure Transparency Initiative, and a member of the Board of Trustees of Engineers Against Poverty. Dr. Ofori has won a number of awards for teaching, including the Excellent Teacher Award at NUS and for research. He won the CIB Best Coordinator Award from 2004 to 2007 in 2007. And he was also given the award for international collaboration at the 100th anniversary of the University of Zagreb, Croatia. He was given the Lifetime Excellence Award by the Ghana Construction Industry, awarded by the Vice President of Ghana in 2000. Prof, you are most welcome, and we will celebrate you on this platform. You are welcome, Prof. So we just hand it over to the first person that would be taking off the questions. Zara, are you set?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. All
right. Good morning, everybody. It's really a privilege and honor to be here this morning. My name is Zara Joshua from University of Quantity, from the Federal University of Kebbi State, and I'm studying quantity surveying, and I'm presently in 500 level. So we'll be asking our Dr. George of questions today regarding how it all started, how he began his career, and every other thing we need to know for this session. So, Mark, can you please display the questions?
Oh, you don't have it. You don't have it. I don't have it.
Okay.
I don't have any phone.
Okay. All right. Let me just go ahead here. Okay. So I have them here with me.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay, sir. Sir, will kindly tell us about yourself, and also we want to know when and where you were born, your nationality, and the schools you attended.
Yes. All right. I'll say I'm speaking from London, so I'll say good morning to all of you. I know some of you are joining in Asia. It's 8 hours. You're 8 hours ahead. So for you, I'll say good afternoon. I thank patients and the members, the other members of the women in construction in Africa. I'm sorry, women in academics in Africa. Yeah. I think it's very interesting for me to see the academics and also to see students as well, because I like to see students and I like students. So it is good that the first question is being asked by a student. So after saying thank you, I also want to welcome all of you who are here today. I've been told that I'm not allowed to say anything. I'm only allowed to answer questions. So that's what I will do. But somewhere along the line, I will ask for permission to say a few things, okay, which are outside the questions that I've been asked. Okay, so I was asked to let you know where I was born, and I was born in a small, relatively small town called Ofori. In Ghana, it's a big town, but elsewhere it will be small. I think the population now will be about 500,000. And it's actually near Accra, the capital. It's about 50 miles from Accra. Currently, it's really thriving because it's not too far from Accra. It's possible for you to go and do conferences there. So it's a very popular seminar, conference, workshop venue. And so there are many big hotels growing and being built there. The town is very metropolitan, very cosmopolitan. It actually attracts everyone from the country, and that was where I was born. And so I speak a number of Ghanaian languages. Well, at least I can understand a number of Ghanaian languages as well. So it made me very much a Ghanaian, having been born at Ofori. Yes, so that's where I was born, and I still am 100% Ghanaian.
Okay, thank you, sir, for that. Yes, sir, I would like to know the school you attended.
Yes. Okay, so my primary school was a school called the Presbyterian Primary B School, and the middle school actually followed that. In Ghana, that was the system we had. So you'd go to the primary school for 6 years, go to the middle school for 4 years, and after that, you go to the secondary school. So my Presbyterian B School was at Ofori, and it was a highly disciplined, oriented school, and that was how I was brought up. And the focus was on hard work. It was a Christian school, and so going to church on Sunday was compulsory. If you didn't go, you were actually punished. And so, most of us actually tried to go. And so that was how I was actually brought up. And the secondary school, the secondary school was in a smaller town. The school was called the Suhum Secondary Technical School. And it was, in those days, you would do 5 years of secondary education, and then 2 years, where you do the O-levels, and then 2 years of the A-level examination as well. So for the secondary education, I was at the Suhum Secondary Technical School, and that was what actually gave me the orientation towards technical subjects, because over there I did woodwork, and I did what was called then building drawing. And so I had, if you like, broad education in the sciences, but also in technology as well. Then I went to a school called the Infant System School. Those of you joining us from Singapore and Malaysia, it's actually the equivalent of the Anglo-Chinese school in Singapore, because it was set up by the Methodist missionaries in a city called Cape Coast. Cape Coast used to be the capital of Ghana before the capital was moved to Accra. That town, that city is really very interesting because it has some of the best secondary schools in the country. Infant System was the first school, and over there, the education was really extremely high level. And again, the focus was on hard work. Many of the leaders of the country actually were educated at Infant System School, and I had the privilege of studying there. At this point, I think I should pause and pay my respects to the taxpayer in Ghana, because education at that time was 100% free, and I actually benefited from having gone to school for free at the expense of the Ghanaian taxpayer. So I'm sitting here because of the sacrifice made by Ghanaians, and I want to honor them and to pay my respects to them. So then I went to so I studied at Infant System School, and there I did the sciences, the very hard sciences you would call them. So it was physics, chemistry, and mathematics. Because I didn't do biology, certain areas were at O level and also at A level, certain areas were not open to me, and so I had the opportunity to look at other areas, and that was what then took me to study at the University of Science and Technology in Kumasi. And I did building technology. So that is, yeah, well, go on, Zara.
All right, thank you very much, sir. Yeah. It's really nice knowing how and where you schooled. So we'll be moving straight to the next question. So I'd like to know who and what inspired you to choose your career path, sir?
Yes. So as I was saying, I went to the secondary technical school, and in that school, I chose, so you had two choices, either to do woodwork or to do metalwork. If you did woodwork, then you would do woodwork and building technology, the building drawing. If you did metalwork, then you do metalwork in the workshop, and also then engineering drawing, as we called it at the time. And so because I did woodwork, I was actually, at that time, we were being encouraged to want to be lawyers and doctors and so on. But because I'd done woodwork, I had a bit of interest in building technology. It was also fortunate, well, I was also fortunate because at Infant System at that time, building technology was one of the areas where, it was a new, relatively new area, not as old as law and medicine and accountancy and so on. And so it was one of the areas where some of the better students were being encouraged to go. And so I chose building technology. It was a bit competitive, not the most competitive, but quite competitive at the time. And so not being someone who wanted to show off, I chose that one. And that was the one I went to do. So I was encouraged because it was popular at the time, and it was also the opportunity for me to do something for the country at the time, because development was at its peak. This was a very long time ago. I'm talking about 1971. So it was a long time ago, and the country was wanting to develop, and it needed people who had done that subject. And so that was what drew me to study building technology. And that was what drew me then to come into this particular area of study. And that's why my career has been based on, if you like, construction management, building technology, construction technology. Yeah.
All right, thank you very much, sir.
And Zara, if I'm not answering your questions properly, you can
no problem, sir.
You can tell me off and tell me to answer it properly. Yeah.
No problem, sir. Thank you very much for your response. Now I'll be asking the last question for this session. And we'll also like to know a little bit about your parents' career, to know if their career had an impact on your success as an academic.
Yes. So my parents, actually, they were traders. They were entrepreneurs. My father was maybe the biggest clothing trader in my small town, my hometown, Ofori. And he was quite well known in the town. But I'd never got into entrepreneurship. I'm not very good at it. And so my parents actually didn't have any particular influence on me. And if you ask whether my parents were the ones who encouraged me to study, they valued education and they did encourage us to study. But they actually themselves had not been educated. They hadn't had the opportunity to be educated formally. They did a mass education and so on, so they could read a little bit and write, but they were not academically minded. And so it was the schools which I attended, where the focus had been on hard work, which enabled me to try and do the very best I could to succeed. I'll tell you a little bit of a story as to why my father's push, although it wasn't because he was educated, his push was also instrumental. He had a friend, and I also had a friend. So we were in the same class, and our fathers were friends, and they would bet as to who would be the first in the class, in our class. And most of the time it would be me, and other times it would be his son. So if I was first, it would be my father's friend's son. If I was first, his father was very angry with him. And if he was first, then my father would be angry with me. So those were some of my drivers, not because of not because my father was academic, but it was because of a bet. It was because of a friendly competition between parents who wanted to take somebody would say vicarious interest in the development of their children through being angry with them if they didn't actually do better than their own friend. Yeah. So this friend of mine is still a friend, and this is going back from the time we were 7, 8 years old until now. Yeah. Okay. So that's the end of that early part.
Okay, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, sir. We are grateful for the responses you've given us, and we'll hope to hear more during the session as the session moves forward. So we hope to hear more as the webinar moves forward. Thank you very much. This is the end of this particular session. So over to you, Ma.
Thank you so much, Zara. And Prof, thanks so much for the responses. At least we now know much about our Prof. Thank you so much. So we'll quickly move on to the next session, and that will be scholarship. So that will be the PhD journey. So we have Professor Ofori. She will be the one anchoring this session. Okay. Prof, are you in there? Are you in?
Yes, I am.
Oh, great. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. Professor George Ofori, you're welcome.
Yes.
Nice to really have you. My name is Olatokunbo Fuyato.
Okay.
I'm an associate professor at the Department of Civil Engineering, Covenant University. And it's a great pleasure to have you with us. Yeah, the first question to you, Prof. These days we have a lot of new entrants into the PhD program, and a lot of them see it as a challenge. Sometimes they think, oh, how many months will I spend? When will I finish? Prof, please, what is your advice to early career researchers on this category?
Okay. Yes. So the PhD journey. Maybe I should tell a bit of a story about my own PhD journey, and then somewhere along the line I'll be telling you about my relationship with my supervisors. Well, some people say they cannot hear what's going on. So if the technical team can help, I think that would be useful. Okay. So I had a scholarship from the government of Ghana, again, and the generosity of the taxpayer enabled me to have a scholarship to go and study. I had a scholarship from the government of Ghana to do a PhD at University College London. And my supervisor, his name was Mr. John Andrews. I was his first student. And the relationship between him and I actually developed and became like one between a father and a son. And that's the kind of relationship that I also hope that after that, I have developed with my own students. So for the student wanting to do a PhD, I would say it's a long journey, but it's a very, very rewarding journey. In my case, I was enabled by my supervisors to have a whole year. I mean, that wasn't the intention, but to have the free time to speak to as many people as I wanted in order for me to make up my mind as to what I wanted to do in terms of the topic. Because I wanted to do something that would be very useful to my country. And so I wanted to look at how we could develop the construction industry in Ghana. But as you know, a PhD topic has to be narrow, it has to be focused, it has to have a theoretical base. I didn't want a narrow, focused PhD that will sit on a shelf and not do anything, just be in a library. And so they said, okay, you speak to us. They gave me some names. And these were some of the big names in the UK at the time in the area of building economics, construction economics, construction management. This went on for more than a year. And then at this time, well, later on, I started to panic a little bit. And that was when then I put my proposal and other things together. So after 1.5 years, I was allowed to move from, at that time, you had to register as an MPhil, from the MPhil to the PhD. And so my PhD, actually, my actual PhD, because it was finished in 2.5 years, my actual PhD actually lasted 1 year. Because for me, I had a very good foundation and a very good base, and I understood what I wanted to do. And so, actually doing it, it didn't take too long, right? And so those who are embarking on the PhD now, what I would say is to have a good topic, and those who are supervising PhDs, what I would also say is to enable your students to have the ability and the opportunity to speak to as many people who know about the subject, and these days to communicate with as many people abroad also who know about the subject as possible, instead of trying to ensure that you are the only person who they should listen to. Yeah. So giving the student the flexibility, the opportunity, and also making it possible, giving him or her the contacts as well to consult as widely as possible is a very useful part of the PhD, and I will encourage supervisors to do that. And for students, I would say yes, try and confuse yourself, try and gather as much information about the subject as possible, and then try and find a path through this huge mass of things that you have collected, because it is through that then you will actually have a viable and a very good PhD at the end. So I hope I've answered the question. If not, ask me again the part that you want me to focus on, and I'll do so. Thank you.
No, I like you said in the beginning, so relationship with your supervisor, or who will actually be doing the lecture. The question today, the important thing about a PhD program, the degree, academic, what call end of the program. So we just want to know what is the most important thing about a PhD program. Is it the degree?
The audio was not very good, so I couldn't actually hear the question.
Could I help? Could I help, Prof? Okay, I think what she's saying is what is really important about the PhD program? Is it the degree? Is it the academic rigor? or is it who the researcher becomes at the end of the program?
Yes. So this is a question where you can actually pick and choose one from the other. I would say all three are very, very important. And so I would say the degree is important because the degree then gives you the accolade. It gives you the opportunity to claim that you have actually been through, if like you've been through the forge, you've been, you've put in the hard work, let's say, and you have something to show for what you have done. But a PhD is of no use if it doesn't actually make a difference, or it doesn't enable you to make a difference, if it doesn't enable you to actually put what you studied to good use, not only in the academic field, but also elsewhere. And so the thing that you do with the PhD is important. And the third part is the result from what you do with the PhD, and that's also important. And I would say later on that the research that we're doing, if it doesn't have an impact in industry, if it doesn't have an impact in society, if it doesn't make a difference, then it's actually not very useful research. Yeah. Okay, so the PhD degree is good, but a PhD degree on its own is not useful. It's not just a license to find a job and make money, but it's actually a responsibility to make a contribution to society. As to whether you paid your own fees or not, no fees that you pay can actually pay for everything that you would have benefited and would have benefited you as well in doing the PhD. And so being able to give back to industry, well, to society, is something that you should be aiming to do as well, having done the PhD. So the PhD is an accolade. The PhD is also an important responsibility, as well as it being, if you like, the opportunity for you to earn your daily bread as well. Yeah.
Thanks,
Very
Prof.
much.
Okay.
Very, very insightful. It is all about being responsible, making contribution, and making impact. And then this brings me to the last question.
Yes.
There's a good concern that the PhD training is no longer fit for purpose, and that the training has to become more relevant to global and or to local challenges. So how do you think supervisors and institutions can reform the PhD program to fit this purpose?
Yeah. Okay. So again, I'll tell my personal story first, and then I'll come back to answer this question. So my two supervisors, the first one I say was called John Andrews. John Andrews was head of the program, construction management, building economics and management at University College London. The second supervisor was Dr. Patricia Hillebrand. Dr. Hillebrand had written the only book at that time on construction industry economics. And I'm pausing here because we lost her only a few months ago. And so I pay respects to the two giants on whose shoulders I stand. And they made a huge difference to me. Later on, I'll be telling you about my own mentors. They made a huge difference to me. And they enabled me to actually be who I am now. And so I must pause and pay my respects to them. Okay. So through John and through Patricia, I learned quite a lot. And I like to say that there is nothing about the construction industry that I know that Patricia didn't teach me. There's also nothing about writing an academic paper that I know that John Andrews didn't teach me. But just also to remember that John Andrews had a technician's diploma, didn't have a first degree, didn't have a master's, but he was the most intelligent person I had known up to that time. Yeah. Okay. So those were what I was enabled to have as supervisors, and that's why the time I went through the PhD actually was a big part of my being developed as a human being and as a person. So the question that I'm being asked is whether the PhD is fit for purpose today. I would now also say that I'm actually used to the PhD being done in different ways. In Singapore, when I was there, the PhD was being done, modeled slightly on both the British and the American, on the American way. So the student would do a number of taught modules. And then the student would do what is called a qualifying exam, a qualifying examination. And then the student will also do something called the comprehensive examination. This is before the student actually puts together the thesis and before the student is ready for the Viva as well. So it's this mixture I like very much, because I think it enables the student to develop further his or her academic strengths, and at the same time also to become, if like, a bona fide researcher before he or she finishes as well. And there's encouragement also for them, for the students, to publish papers while they're studying. At that time, at least, it wasn't compulsory for them to finish a number of papers. In some universities, it is. They must finish 2 or 3 before you can graduate. But in Singapore at that time, it wasn't. Maybe it is now. There are some Singapore academics on this program, so they can correct me now if things have changed. But that was the model of the PhD that I liked. The one that actually is going on here in the UK, and also I think in Nigeria and Ghana, and perhaps many African countries, is that it's all based on a thesis. It can be good, but I believe that mixture, of academic rigor and really being tested at the postgraduate level in subjects that are related to your thesis, to your research, in addition to you completing a full thesis, is I think a very, very good way of teaching. And so when I have a bit more say in future, I'll be advocating this approach. And I have a friend here, he's now teaching at the University of Surrey. He has taken that approach to that university, and he tried it in 2 universities. They didn't like it. He left. He's now in Surrey, and he's using this approach there. And I think over time, he is making big progress and doing well. That's not to say that those of you who are doing the straightforward thesis to get your PhDs should regret doing that. But I think for me, the value would be if students had that kind of ability to build themselves academically in class, in addition to being very good researchers as well. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
So yeah, but let me just go on. So I would say the PhD is fit for purpose, but going back again, I would say the PhD is not fit for purpose if then it doesn't lead to any purpose.
Yeah, thank you very much, Professor Kupo. Thank you so much for insightful talk, and then the fact that we need to know that there's a lot that one can learn from one's supervisor. You have to learn how to write academic papers, have a good relationship with your supervisor or your mentor. Thank you very much for answering those questions. Thank you, sister.
Thank you.
Dr. Pat.
Yeah, thanks so much, Prof. So we'll go to the next session, which is scholarship. So we'll have Dr. Adewale handle the session.
Okay, good morning, everybody. And good morning, Dr. Ofori. It's nice to have you here. We are so honored and privileged to have you. So my name is Dr. Bukola Adewale. I'm an associate professor at the Department of Architecture, Covenant University, Nigeria. So I'll be handling the session on scholarship. So I have a few questions for you here. So,
yes.
So on the first one, when Dr. Pat was taking your bio, I was listening with, I was so attentive and I was so impressed, about the giant strides, you've made, so far. And I was wondering how easy it would be for some of us, to really attain that height. So that's why I'll be asking you this question. So what does it make, or what makes for a good scholar? So how did you attain, those prides? What did you do differently that probably some of us are not doing? Because I was like, will I possibly be able to attain such heights? Those are what makes for a good scholar. So what are those things you do or you did that really took you to that great height?
Okay, so on this one, I will say I will speak for a long time, and so I will say if at the end of that very long speaking, it's not a speech, but very long speaking, I still don't answer your question. So again, let me tell you about my personal journey. So I've told you about John Andrews and I've told you about Patricia Hildebrand. So after I finished my PhD, I went back to Ghana and I was working in industry for the company Techi and Partners that you that Pat mentioned. And so Techi and Partners, they were the largest quantity surveyors in Ghana. So I was working for the largest QS firm in Ghana. And so I received a letter. In those days, it was a letter in the post. I received the letter in the post, and the letter came from Patricia Hildebrand. And in the envelope was the flyer of the journal Construction Management and Economics. This was a journal that had only started. So this was in 1982. So it's a journal that had only started in that year. And there was a short note from Pat. She said, you must write for this journal. Okay. And I couldn't say no to Pat. Remember, I said she had been a huge inspiration and a teacher for me. All right. So I couldn't say no to her. So I had to write. And that was the beginning of my academic writing. And currently, Construction Management and Economics is maybe the top journal in our field. And so my first paper, my first actual serious academic paper was in Construction Management and Economics. The referee wrote a number of things, which I addressed. And so I started, if you like, let me say, I started from the top. And so I never looked back, if you want to look at it that way. And so the opportunities that came my way, I have to be very grateful, for them, because they didn't come the way of others, and they might not come the way of some of you. So that was the first one. Second one, I've had the opportunity to visit many countries. I've had the opportunity to gain exposure in many different countries. And John Andrews was the one who made it possible because he had a consultancy with the International Labour Office, the ILO. And this was in 1978. He was visiting Southern Africa and he said I should go with him. And so I went with him as an assistant to him while he was teaching some courses in those countries. And that enabled me to appreciate that the PhD I was doing would actually have use when I finished, and it was being applied in the countries which were my subjects as well. So this was inspiration. At the same time also, it was exposure to people in government and so on and so forth. And so again, I started from the top. I had that advantage. Not many people will have that advantage. And therefore, that responsibility is on my part, to make sure that I would, put this to use. And that was why my PhD, today it's online, even today it's online, if you want to. It's a very long title. I can still recite it because every single word of it, John Andrew sat me down and we looked at it all the way through. All right, but it's online. It's in the UCL library. It's a huge book, but to me, it's a useful document because I looked at it and it was a plan I did for the country, for Ghana, Ghana's construction industry development. And I think a lot of it still applies today. And this was in 1981. So this is the situation that we have. So now having said that, I've now forgotten what the question was. So you have to remind me.
Okay, I said what makes for a good scholar?
Oh yes. So what makes for a good scholar? Hold on. There's there's a sort of points I wrote here. I'm looking for them. But let me put this to one side. What makes for a good scholar is this. So when I was in Singapore, because that was where I started my academic career, every single year there would be what was called an annual review. And every single year there was a form that you had to fill. You have to fill the form to indicate your performance in research, performance in teaching, your performance in what was called at that time service. Teaching is clear, research is also clear, but what is service? Service is firstly service in the university, so that you're not someone who's just hiding and doing research in your own room, not contributing to anything. So serving in committees, serving in any either permanent, serving in leadership, serving in what's called here citizenship. That's one in the university. Service to the industry, your contribution to your professional institutions. Thirdly, service to the international and local academic community. And finally, I would say service to society. Okay, so I would say the scholar will be someone who is a very good teacher and someone who just doesn't only teach, but also takes interest in their students as well. So the student's knowledge development is number one, but the student's experience, perhaps in terms of the relationship with the teacher and also relationships with their peers, I think are key. So that is teaching. Then comes research. And research, remember, I've said many times, the research that really doesn't lead to impact is not very much use. So research, and in terms of your citations, useful. Research in terms of your development, also useful. But research in terms of the impact you make, in terms of the impact that the work that you do makes, is even more important. So the scholar is the person who excels in these three areas, or the person who does these three areas. But I would also say that the scholar is a person who doesn't only just do it by himself or herself, but does it with others, so that the scholar brings others along, number two. And number three, the scholar is also someone who mentors, someone who actually enables to come after him or her the next generation of good performers as well. All right. And I wanted to also tell you why I became an academic and why I became a teacher. So this is this is going back to the story I was telling, which I didn't finish. So I wanted to be a teacher because I thought that I was being taught in a way that could have been better. So I wasn't happy with the way that I was taught. Because the teaching was, I thought, a little bit, how should I put it, so that I would be kind also to my teachers. It was a little bit too rigid. Let me put it that way. Too rigid, and I wasn't allowed to be to have a free mind. So the flexibility wasn't very much there. There was too much rigidity, and there was too much expectation of the right way of doing things. But I think it should be possible for students also to be allowed to explore. Yeah. And so then I believe I've answered the question, but I'll finish by also saying that the groups that I enjoy, the classes that I enjoy teaching, are the classes where students want to challenge me, students want to converse with me, students want to talk to me, and students don't just take and walk away and believe that this is the gospel truth. I like students to actually interact with each other and interact with me. And that is what I think the scholar should be expecting to have. Not a situation where he or she is the authority, but a situation where he or she also has to contend with ideas that others have, which are equally valid, which might be equally valid, and which he or she has to actually, have very good arguments in order to, handle them and handle the people who actually are proposing them. Yeah.
Thank you very much, sir, for that rich answer. So that takes me to the next question, which is on publication.
Yes.
You know, as a good scholar, you are expected to publish, you know,
Well,
from time to time. So it's not only enough to publish, but you have to work on your visibility and citations.
That's
so,
right.
and I think that's where many of us, you know, have challenges. So we want to know from your wealth of experience how we can improve our visibility and citations.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. So again, that's why I took the opportunity to explain my background a little bit. I had, how should I say? I had an inside track. I was given the opportunity to be visible that most people would not have. Maybe very few people will have. So I had that privilege, and I'm not sure whether others will have that privilege. But I like the way the word visibility and citations have been put together, because it is through good work that you do as an academic that you become then recognized, and that then you become visible, and that then you have an international profile. I like that first, before then you talk about citations, because citations can also be, well, citations are useful, but they can also be a little bit too much of a focus that some people put on the work that they do, which can actually mislead, because a piece of work that is very much highly cited may actually not be having much impact on the ground. And I like work that actually has impact on the ground. Yeah. So visibility and citation, well, visibility, that not many people can tell you what to do. But in terms of citation, many of the journals actually have guidance. So they from time to time, they will write either to, well, they write to me, so I'm not sure whether they write to all of you as to how to encourage, or write to me and write to authors as well, to encourage them to take certain measures to ensure that their work is cited, that their work is seen by others, and that their work is cited. Yeah. And so later on, I'll send to patients some possible links where people on this platform can find advice from publishers if they already don't have them. This publisher, Emerald, for example, they're very aggressive, if you like, because they want also the papers that they publish to be cited, and so they encourage academics who write papers in terms of what to do in order to have their papers cited. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much, sir. So I'll go to the last question, sir, and it's on teaching and research. You know, the other time you said we have the responsibility of teaching, doing research, and also community service.
Yes.
So now, as academics, how do you advise that we balance our teaching and research responsibilities?
Yes.
So that we don't pay too much attention on one, over the other. So how do we go about that, sir?
Yeah. So I think academics don't have the luxury to choose. The academic is given a workload, and then the academic must deliver. So what I would say is that the academic should make the very best out of the workload that the academic is given. Okay, so teaching can actually lead to good performance in research as well. I think this is something that we should be also looking at. Let me give you an example. So I was teaching an MSc class in construction management, and a student in the class, she's actually a lawyer from Australia. She asked this question. So we say the construction industry is inefficient, but who sets the targets for the project that the construction industry does? from which we then say that the construction industry fails to meet its cost targets and its time targets. It enabled me to think quite a lot. And so if you ask me about some of the, I have written down 10 questions, which maybe if you have time, I'll go through with you or mention them to you. If you ask me about some of the questions that we should be asking ourselves, it is this. We say the industry is inefficient. We say the industry has low productivity, but who sets the targets? And this was a question that I was asked while I was teaching. And this has been very useful to me in my research. That's number one. Number two, there are many staff members, academic staff members, who publish very good papers with their students, even from undergraduate dissertations as well. And so the fact that you're teaching actually shouldn't stop you from being a good researcher. Yeah, and I would say we should always look for the opportunity, look for maybe read between the lines or look beyond the surface to find what we can actually derive from what we're doing, whether it's research or it's service. Sorry, whether it's research or it's teaching. And while we teach, let's also see how we apply our research in teaching. Okay, well, we talk about research-informed teaching, all right? And so I was actually talking about Emerald, and I've just seen an email from Emerald written to me. Okay, so later on, I'll forward to patients what this email was about. They keep advising authors to find ways and means of publicizing the work that they're doing. Yeah, and so the point I was making was this, that it is possible to benefit your research from your teaching. At the same time, it's also possible to benefit your teaching from your research, and try and benefit the students from your research is what I would say. Yeah, and trying to find a balance between the two. It will never be there because it's not within your power. It's not within your control. Your workload is assigned to you, and you have to do the teaching. But make sure that you get maximum opportunity to do research because of the teaching that you're doing. Let me put it that way, because of the teaching that you're doing. Okay, so I hope I've responded to your question.
Yeah, yes, we thank you so much for the response. So what you're saying in essence is that we should engage in research-based teaching. Yes. If I got you right, sir.
That's right.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
That's one. And also, teaching can also benefit our research. Let's look for some questions that students ask us can actually help us in doing our research.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Prof, for the answers. We'll quickly move on to the next session. That's work-life balance. Work-life balance.
Okay.
Yes. So, Mrs. Olade, are you up? Mrs. Olade, yes.
Yes, I'm on. Thank you, Dr. Patience.
Yes, you have the floor, Ma. You can go on.
We want to say thank you, Dr. George Ofori. Your contributions, your answers have been gaining a lot. You've made us to understand that research is an important aspect, but we should actually know what we want to do, and it has to be an impactful one. It should benefit the society. And teaching also aids research. Thank you, sir. We have also gained from, like the doctor, the associate prof said, we have gained from the reading of your citation. My name is QS Esther Olade. An associate lecturer and also postgraduate student. We're going into work-life balance. We want to know, we have heard your background, sir, and you've told us about your experience. You've told us even how your parents are entrepreneurs, but you chose not to go that route. And you've been an experienced construction professional. we want to know, as a professional, we know that professionals in the construction industry, we have much to do, but then we also have the home front. As busy professionals in the construction industry, want to know how you've been able to manage work and the home front. This aspect, this session is talking about work-life balance.
Yes.
From your experience, sir, we want you to share with us how, in retrospect, what you could have done to improve your work-life balance. You know, as you're going on, there are some things you felt, oh, perhaps there could have been an opportunity. Like you said the other time, you said you went into teaching because you felt the way you were taught was not okay. There could have been a better way. So in the practice of the profession and your academic experience, I want you to share with us, sir, what you felt you could have done to improve your work-life balance. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Okay, I'm not sure whether you, it's written because I couldn't see myself initially. Okay, so the question I've been asked is what I could have done to improve my work-life balance while I was working very hard to attain many of the things that Patience was reading about me. Yes, but I have had I would say a very understanding family. I have 4 children, and my wife didn't work for a while when the children were born. But the children, I don't think the children can say that I deprived them of their time with me, because I made sure that I would take care of everything that the family required me to do. That was number one. And we also, because, okay, let me say this, because I lived in Singapore for 34 years or 33 years. If you like, my growing up time has been in Singapore. And so there was a very small community of Ghanaians. And so we also made it a point that we would meet quite frequently to actually relax, enjoy ourselves, and, you know, have in the form of what we call the Ghana Party. And so the Ghana Party was a way to offload many of the things that would have happened during the week. And so we could relax, we could actually relate to each other, we could share, and so on and so forth. But my wife was very understanding, and we both knew that I actually had to do the very best I could in order for the family to have a good time. So I'll do my part as a member of the family, but I would also at the same time recognize and realize my responsibility to ensure that I was working hard in order for the family to have the quality of life that I wanted them to have. And so if you ask me whether I could have done more of one or the other, I would say not really, because I made it a point that every Sunday, it wasn't completely off work, but every Sunday until 1 o'clock, there was no work. I wouldn't work. And so that is at least half a day in the week where work was totally, completely out. I wouldn't touch work. And if possible, it would be for the whole day. And now coming back, having come back to the UK, because then I also like football, it means that after 1 o'clock also, it is time for football as well. So Sunday is almost completely out, yeah. So I managed to do that in order to take my mind off work. It doesn't mean that I totally forget about work, but it means that I don't put my focus on work. So that is the way I have managed to bring a balance into my life so that it's not all work. Although when you read the citation, you will think it is, but it has not been all work, yeah. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Prof. So, like they said, all work, no play makes Jack dull
Yeah,
boy.
that's right. Yeah.
It's not been work, like we have read in the very busy, heavily loaded citation. Thank you, Prof. You made us understand.
Yes.
Yeah, you made us to understand that, yes, you were into sports, you gave time, and in actual fact, you have actually treated part of the second question I intend to ask. But before then, I just want to expatiate on that first question, because the answer you gave is very, very crucial to us as women.
Yes.
And it's just what we have been experiencing. Even personally, what I experienced, you said your wife had to sacrifice the early part and did not work, stayed at home to take care of the children.
That's right.
Oh, that is what we experience as females, especially in the construction industry. And personally, I did that too. For a number of years, I had to stay to keep my children. And at a particular time, I had to restrain the location where I would work. So it's part of what we do that you have given us this experience as women.
Yes.
It's most especially to balance work and life, so that the home front will be convenient and will be a good base for our practice and work life. Thank you for that. You have actually done justice to that. And I believe our participants are gaining from that. And then you've mentioned football. You take time to play,
yeah, that's right.
to relax.
Yes.
Yes. So I go to the next question. That's the second one. Like I said, what strategies do you currently use to set boundary between work and personal life? Yes, you have mentioned one, that your Sunday is no-go area. You know, some people have to take work home because of heavy load of work. Take it home during the weekend, so that you not keep late in the office. You take work home, and you know you get most of professionals get exhausted, or academics. So, what do you feel, or what are the strategies you have currently been using so that we can take from the stream, from your wealth of experience?
Yeah. Oh, okay. So I cannot say I don't take work home. Work is always with me. So I take work everywhere. But what I do is the time that I have available, I will put in as much as I can. But when it is off, or when I'm off, then I am off. Yeah. But I'll try and put in as much as I can during the time that I have available to me to work. Yes. But it's I have to confess that it's a situation where it means that I sleep not as long as I should. All right. And so my watch always tells me, my mobile phone tells me that the health app on my mobile phone tells me that I haven't had the 8-hour sleep that I needed to have. Yeah. But so the amount of sleep I have is not as much, but I try and put in as much time as I can during that time, so that you know, especially on Sunday, I can actually relax. So at least one day, it's not work. Or even if there's work on that one day, it's only maybe 5% of the time, or at most 10% of the time on that day. Yeah. So I can actually take a complete break from even thinking about work on the Sunday. So that, if you like, that's my strategy then. Yeah, it's the way that I work. Is the way that I keep myself not 100% only thinking about work. Although again, I would say it might appear so, but that's the situation.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
I think Esther is muted.
Yes. Oh. Okay. Let me just start up. Just a minute. Let me see if I can.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think I can be heard now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Some people will say, oh, some people don't go on holiday. I want to know, do you go on holiday at all from the beginning of the year to the end?
Yes. So we have the number of days in the year that we have to take. I take it all. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I think there are 28 days of holiday. Yeah, I take that. And so this year, so my friends in Nigeria, this year in June, I'm planning to be in Ghana for a month. And so my friends in Ghana and Nigeria, if you are around, you can always come and visit in Accra. I'll let patients know where I am. Yeah. Okay.
Good. We would love
Thank you,
to.
Prof.
Well, we look forward to when you come to Nigeria too.
Yeah, Nigeria. I've been to Lagos. I've been well, not Lagos as such, but Lekki. I was at
Okay.
Lekki for a conference in 2014. Yeah.
Oh,
But I'll come again if
that's
I'm
great.
invited.
Lekki is in Lagos. All right,
Yeah.
sir.
Yeah.
We look forward to seeing.
Well, when I mentioned Lagos,
Thank
somebody
you,
said, "No, Lekki is not in Lagos." They said, so I can't argue. Yeah.
Lekki.
All right.
Lekki is in Lagos. I was saying Lekki is in Lagos.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
I will look forward to seeing you when it comes.
Yes.
All right.
All right.
That takes me to the third question. The third and the last question. Do you think women experience more work-life conflicts than men? Because in our construction industry, we know that women are, before we had very few females, but gradually the number of females in the construction industry is increasing, most especially too in academics. So, but it's been all like a phenomenon, and it's just what has been happening. We want you to confirm, we want to hear from you. How can female academics and their institutions address work-life conflicts?
Yes.
We know that women experience in work, there's always conflicts, in most cases, conflict with men.
Yeah.
So we would like to hear from you, sir, how female academics and their institutions can address work-life conflict.
Okay. All right. So again, I'll start with a long story of my life. So as I was saying, I went to the University of Science and Technology, Kumasi in Ghana. And this is if you like, the science and engineering university, or the first one in the country, totally devoted to engineering and science. Later on it changed, but that was what it was. And so in the course, building technology course that I did, the program I think started maybe 20 years before I joined, but up to then, there had not been any woman. So it was only 1 year after the class that I was in, no, 2 years after the class that I was in, that there was a woman. So we're talking about we joined in 1971. So it was only in 1973 that the first entry of students actually had a woman. Okay, so in construction, women in construction in Ghana had, at that time, they weren't too many. And engineering also in the same university didn't have a woman until Tanzania sent a woman in 1972. But since then, in both programs, there have been many women. And when I was in Singapore, also for some years there weren't too many women, but towards the end of my time there, the classes were very balanced. Firstly, and then after a while, there were actually in some years more women than there were men.
More women.
Yeah. So I would say there are opportunities for women, especially now, because the situation is changing. And again, I'll give another example. I went to a conference in Japan. I was invited by the PMI, the Project Management Institute in Japan, the branch in Japan, to speak at their annual conference, huge conference. And someone was talking about women in construction or women in project management. And there were some women sitting with me in the foyer. And they said, why are they talking about women in construction or women in project management? Because to them, there shouldn't be any surprise and there shouldn't be any issue. And to them, it wasn't an issue at all. Okay, but I think it is an issue. And that's why Patience has this group, women in construction, women academics in construction. No, Patience, mention the name properly. Is it Women Academics in Construction? Is
Yes.
that so?
Yes, that's
Okay.
it, Prof.
Yes.
Yeah, it has no
Why?
Africa in it.
Exactly.
Okay, so women academics in construction. And my wish is that in future, we will not have a situation where we have to have a group called Women Academics in Construction. As to what I have done actually to promote, support, mentor, nurture women, I think my former students and my former colleagues who are women will say. But I think progress is being made, but I think much, much more can be done across the board. The progress that is being made gives me a lot of encouragement because I have 3 daughters. And so I have an interest in that. I have 3 daughters and a son. Wow. All right. And I have an interest in ensuring that women have the same opportunity as men have. Yeah. And so in academia, I would say I'm encouraged by the progress that is being made because currently in my country, Ghana, the top 2 universities have women vice chancellors.
Wow.
For the first time.
Wow.
Yeah. Okay. And for the University of Ghana, the woman, the vice chancellor, the registrar, and the chairman of the board of governors of the university, the university council, yeah, are all women. Okay. So I would say the situation is changing. The opportunity, I think, is there, but we acknowledge that much, much more needs to be done. We also acknowledge that women actually have more responsibility that ties them down and keeps them away from regular work. That's why in many universities, especially in the UK, there are actually real measures that are being taken to ensure that the playing field is more level. And so currently my boss, the provost of my university, is a woman, and the chief people officer of the university is a woman, and the chief operating officer of the university is also a woman. And so I would say there's a lot of inroads being made by women. It shouldn't just be inroads. It should be a situation where we actually have parity. But it gives me encouragement that many of the vice chancellors of some of the top universities in the UK, Cambridge, Oxford, Imperial College, Durham, many of these have actually been women or are women currently. Yeah. And so action is being taken, especially in European countries as well. And I'm encouraged by that, but I think much, much more needs to be done. The intention is, how do we remove the hindrances and the difficulties in front of women? At the same time, I would also say, just as the women I met in Japan said, that we shouldn't be focused too much on what we perceive to be, if you like, difficulties in front of women. I think women should also be determined to pursue what they think is their right, number one, and also to do the very, very best in every situation that they have. Because I would say they're fighting not only their corner, but they're fighting the corner of women, showing that women can actually also do it. And so if the vice chancellors who've been appointed and who are women do very well, it actually gives, it means that it shows everyone that women can achieve and women can do it. So it's a responsibility, number one, but also it's also a right. And I think the rest of us should do everything we can to ensure that women actually have every single opportunity that is available to others who are not women. Yeah. But I was also going to say to Patience that maybe later on another single day, you could actually discuss this on its own, because I think it's a huge topic, a very useful topic. And I'm not an expert because I haven't been a woman myself, but yeah, but I think there are many facets to it, and maybe if we have time here today, we can actually also discuss it, because there are some I know who are here who want to listen and who want to contribute to this. Yeah. Okay. So later on, maybe towards the end, you can devote a bit of time to this topic.
It's all right, Prof. Thanks so much, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Prof.
Okay. Yes,
but I would just like to hear your own opinion.
Yes.
Concerning the belief that women need to before they can be recognized.
I couldn't hear that.
That women need to do more, extra work more than men before they can be recognized or promoted or valued. They need to go an extra mile than the men. Just want your own opinion or your confirmation to that.
Well, that would be totally unfair. To expect women to do more. Yeah, but I think most institutions that I know in the UK, they actually are putting in measures to ensure that the playing field is totally level. Yeah, because I've been also on probation boards and I've been asked to write reviews for candidates as well. I think they're doing everything they can to this perception is removed.
So there'll be gender equation balancing.
Yes, yes. This is yes. So and even the pay gap between men and women, it's there's a huge battle to ensure that it's totally removed. Yeah. So the gender pay gap. So I was yesterday I was looking at a paper looking at the gender pay gap between women and men vice chancellors, and they're saying that has gone. There's no difference at all between the women and the men who are vice chancellors.
That's great.
It's a special group though. But what the study found was that in the UK, among vice chancellors, there's no gender pay gap, which I thought was a very, very useful study and also very useful finding that they make at the end. Okay.
Yeah, we want to thank you so very much for your contributions, for your wealth of knowledge that you have dished out for us to tap and learn from. We say thank you. Okay. And we are showing you that all you have said are going to be very, very impactful. We're going to make use of them more and more as female professionals, female academics in the construction industry. And on this platform, we have even those who are not in academics, especially that are online too, as participants. And like you said, research is what you do. When you do research, you need to be impactful. The society must know that the society must benefit from whatever research you are doing. That's right. And that is one of the essence of this webinar, that females in the construction industry, academics, and even non-academics can actually be impacted from those of us that are in the academics. So we want to say a very big thank you to you, Prof, for coming and sparing your time to dish out from your wealth of experience to us. Thank you, sir. God bless you.
All right, Esther. Thank you.
Over to you, Dr. Patience. We've come to the end of this question.
Hello.
Work-life balance.
Thank you so much. We'll just move on quickly to the other session. Dr.
Hello.
Taiwo. Yeah, Dr. Taiwo, we can hear you.
Okay, yes. Good afternoon.
Good
afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Yes, Prof, we appreciate you. Thank you for being a part of us today. We've been hearing a lot about you. Personally, I've been seeing a lot of your works. I've been seeing Ofori 2006. I've cited you a couple of times. And I'm so proud because I'm also a quantity surveyor. I'm an academic in the Federal University of Technology, Akure. And we've used a lot of your publications. We have cited you in so many areas. You are indeed a teacher, and we appreciate you. Right about now, we want to go to the areas of current trends, current global debates. Yes, and we're going to be taking that in two different aspects, looking at climate change and Industry 4.0. So let me start by asking you, before now you have been talking majorly on, based on your experience, using more of a personal chat. And this time we're going a bit academic. Yeah. So we want to ask her, based on your experience and the like, what specific negative impacts does the construction industry have on climate change? Just help us simplify that. The specific negative impact that the construction industry has on climate change. That would be my first question to you, sir.
Okay. All right. So the impact of construction on climate, I think this is acknowledged and reported about in many reports, papers, and government policy documents and attempts to encourage the industry to move away from where it is now. So the question is also, it also has to be considered as to whether, in fact, there is anything in the world called climate change. Is there climate change? And the answer is actually yes, because there are many studies. The IPCC. This is a group of very expert and eminent scientists. They have stated and established without any doubt that there is, in fact, impact on the climate from the behavior of us, the behavior of industry, behavior of ordinary people. Behavior of construction is a major contributor to it. In terms of the materials we use, which are produced, cement, steel, and so on. The energy intensive materials that we use, that's number one, aluminum and so on. And also the timber that we use, the timber that we use that also removes the forest because we don't always plant back the trees. Okay, that's another thing, another contributor to. So it removes the oxygen that would have actually absorbed the carbon dioxide and things like that. So that's another possible. So all these are all very much established and accepted, and there's no argument about it. Yeah. So the construction industry is a major contributor to climate change. But for me, we often say it and then we stop there. But what I would say is this: if the construction industry is a major contributor to climate change, we must also remember that the construction industry has a very important role. The important role it plays is that it is the one that actually develops the infrastructure, the economic and social infrastructure that enables development to take place. Yeah. Okay, which means that without the construction industry, there wouldn't actually be the kind of facilities that we need in order to work, to live, and to even do our daily activities. And so construction is necessary. The important thing is to ensure that we do our construction, again, I'll use the word again, responsibly as well. Okay. So we should try and minimize the impact that our construction activities have on the climate. All right, and it is here that the challenge actually comes. And as researchers, we have this responsibility to make a contribution to enabling construction to take place without too negative an impact on climate.
Wow, thank you very much, sir. We appreciate that beautiful response. So really, we should make sure that we carry out our construction responsibly.
Yes.
Thank you for that. Okay, sir. As researchers in the built environment, how do we contribute to this climate change discourse? How do we contribute to this climate change discourse as researchers?
Yeah. So there've been many. There is a lot of discussion. There are many papers still being written on the impact of construction on the climate, and also therefore on how construction can reduce its impact. One of them is the proposal. Well, it's not just a proposal, but the reality of benchmarks, of assessment schemes in countries. Okay, trying to find out the extent to which the buildings are responsive or not responsive to the impact on the environment, and also then their contribution to climate change. All right.
Okay.
Now the question is this: are these appropriate? These yardsticks, these benchmarks, these assessment schemes, are they appropriate? We need to think about it. We need to try and develop useful ones so that if we say the item does contribute to environmental, does have some environmental impact, it is actually true. It is not because of certain flaws in the assessment scheme. And so we need the very best assessment scheme. And we need assessment schemes that are fit for purpose in the countries where they are being applied. So we don't just borrow from elsewhere. So these are some of the things that we should be discussing. The basis of trying to measure the extent to which the buildings that we are building actually are, let's say, responsible, are appropriate in the context that we actually are building them, in terms of the contribution or otherwise to the climate being affected in any particular way.
Thank you so much, sir.
Yeah.
For that. Thank you so much for that. This takes us to questions on Industry 4.0. Yes, we know this is a current global debate for some time, but 4.0 now we're moving to 5.0.
Yeah.
And we want to know, as females, there are various challenges that we face in the construction industry, such as inequality, suppression, and the like. How do you think the Industry 4.0 can reduce some of these challenges?
Yeah. So Industry 4.0 and Industry 5.0, they both about application of technology, the use of information. They both about improving productivity. They're both about if you like, pushing technology to the furthest possible end in terms of its application in industry, in terms of its application in our case, in terms of its application in construction. And in the 5.0 version, the intention is how the relationship between the machines and the people actually is, let's say, is not just actualized, but really optimized as well. And then also they talk about value as well. What I would say, because I know there's another question here about what is the difference between the two. What I would say is this, that we shouldn't be looking at the difference. We should be looking at how we can actually bring the two together for the benefit of the construction industry. Yes. So that in future, we have an industry. Okay, let me talk about the past a little bit. So we had an industry that was seen to be very, very slow to change, but I think that is changing. I think the industry is now much more willing to look at technology. But it has to be technology that makes a difference. It has to be technology that enables them to actually improve on what they're doing and also improve the bottom line that they have. I think if they're convinced that it actually does help, they will adopt it. And so in future, what we are saying is that it should be possible for 4.0, 5.0 to be put together in such a way as to be convincing to practitioners, number one, and also companies. Well, perhaps companies first, and then practitioners. That it will actually benefit them. It will improve the quality of the work they're doing to improve productivity, to bring benefit to them, and in fact to the bottom line that they have. But for me, all these things are useful. But the question I always have is, what is the what is the perspective of developing countries? To what extent is this actually applicable, firstly, to developing countries? We can say it is, or they are, but the question is, in what way can we enable the developing countries also to move in this way? So how applicable is Industry 4.0 to developing countries? How applicable is Industry 5.0 to developing countries? And how would the two coming together actually make a difference to the way we do work in developing countries in terms of the construction industry and actually the benefit that it brings to society in developing countries. So let's always look at that perspective the developing country perspective. That's the way I look at things. Yes.
Yes, I understand you perfectly, sir, because quite a number of studies have been carried out in these developing countries, and studies on Industry 4.0, its application and the like. And of course, the level of awareness and applicability is still on the very low side, still very low. So I understand exactly what you're saying, sir. But I just want to know if these challenges that I mentioned, if there's any way Industry 4.0 could come in to reduce these challenges that female face, inequalities, suppression, and the like. Is there any way these technologies could reduce it?
Yeah. Why don't we, Patience, why don't we open this one to the public later on? You know, I think there are people here on the platform who may want to comment. Yeah, that's right.
Sir.
Okay, so we reserve this question to the general open discussion.
All right, that's fine.
Okay.
My last question, you have practically answered it. Yes, we're looking at how you suggested that we combine both, which will give us better outputs. Okay, so I think that brings us to the end of this session. Prof, we appreciate you. Thank you for your time. Thank you for sharing in your experience with us.
Okay.
God bless.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Prof. We're really grateful. We can all start sending in our questions. I can see some questions already. We can still send in some more. I'll just take the last question now, and it's about the future of research in the built environment. Prof, sir, with your several decades of experience in the industry and in academics, what would you say should come to the fore in terms of research in the future? Or which areas do you think researchers in the built environment should focus more in the future?
Okay, I have more than 100 topics, but let me just mention 3. So the first one is this. The first one is actually not a topic. It's a plea to all of us. Let us try and understand the construction industry, because we have a very complex industry, and we have an industry which previously we had believed that we understood, but which we actually don't. And every single day, I know that when I read some of these things that people write, I know that it's because they actually do not have the kind of appreciation of the industry that we should have, and that should actually form the basis of what they're saying. But because they don't actually have it, it's what they're saying actually is not valid, or they think it is, but maybe it's not. Yeah. So that's the first one. Let's try and understand the construction industry. The second one is this, that in all situations, let us see where our research is leading us. So these are actually not research topics, but they are issues that we should be concerning ourselves with. Let us see where our research is leading us, not in terms of how it gets us citations, but in terms of how it brings about change in industry, number one, and then brings about improvement in the quality of life of the peoples in our countries, number 2. All right, and here I know our time is coming up, but I have a bit of a story to tell. So in the year 2000, I think it was 2007, yeah, I was invited to speak at the University of Reading at a conference that, the journal that I said I wrote my first paper for, Construction Management in Economics, they were celebrating the 25th anniversary, and they invited me to speak. All right, my paper was on the Millennium Development Goals. I think some of you are young researchers, so you don't know about the MDGs. You know about the Sustainable Development Goals, the SDGs. But the Millennium Development Goals preceded the Sustainable Development Goals. All right, and I was looking at the role of construction in helping to attain the Millennium Development Goals. Okay, and so I suggested that we as researchers, anytime we're doing our research, even before we sit down to think about it, we should be considering how much of a difference, how much of an impact the work that we are doing would have on the ground. Okay, now the question is, do you think that my fellow researchers accepted this appeal Do you think they agreed that this was the right way to go? And as you think about it, the answer is no. They almost unanimously agreed that I wasn't saying the right thing. Academic work should be academic work. Research should be research. It should actually not be influenced in any way by what difference it will make. It should just be research. It should be pure and not adulterated by considerations of anything else. Okay. These are senior, top researchers in my field. Okay, so that was what they said. The very final one is again, repeating what I said about the developing country perspective. Let's try and have that. Yeah. Unfortunately, a field that we established, looking at construction in developing countries, is almost dying because there aren't people who are actually following up and working on it. Yeah. So those were three things that I thought I would share with you in terms of looking towards the future. Okay, so let me just repeat: a better understanding of the construction industry, an appreciation of the difference that the work that we're going to do will make even before we start, and the final one, looking at the developing countries and trying to see what we can do to improve the well-being of our fellow citizens in these countries. Yeah.
Thanks so much, Prof. We are thankful and grateful for your time. We have some questions in the chat because we read them, so everyone is carried along. Then after reading these questions, then we'll go to, everyone can just spare us 10 minutes, then we'll go to those general questions you suggested. So there's a question here where she says, Professor, how many hours do you work every day? And what was your practice to write journals? How did you plan your publications and research? Yeah. Prof, do you want to take them one after the other? Or?
No, I think we take them as this because otherwise people get they get lost. Yeah. So I actually don't have a number of hours that I work every day. So I come to the office as early as I can. Okay. So we're still working hybrid, but we come to the office maybe 3-4 days in a week. So I'm working in the office now. So I come to the office as early as I can. So I get here at 7:30, but about 6 I go back home. But going back home, most of the days I will still work a little bit. And so there's actually no fixed hour, but as I was saying earlier on, I put as much time as I can into the journey and into the time. And also on the train, I do a lot of work on my mobile phone. So on the train, I'll be doing a little bit of work and just drafting some points if I can, unless I'm tired, and I know when I'm tired, and then I don't do anything. Yeah. Okay. Because then even if I want to do something, it doesn't help. Nothing actually does come. Yeah.
Thanks, Prof.
Okay.
Hopefully you've answered that person's question. Can I just go to the next one?
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Prof, for the insightful information and wealth of experience shared. I'm trying to ask a question, but I wasn't given the chance. Sorry, we didn't see your hand up. And then he says, please, I would like to ask you a question that is a bit personal.
Yeah.
How were you able to cope financially during that period, especially when your wife had to stop work for the sake of the children, for the sake of the children?
Yeah.
How did you cope financially during that time when both of you were working?
Yeah. So I have some colleagues from Singapore who are here. I like to say that the academic salary in Singapore is quite good. So it enabled us to actually have a very good life, although my wife was not working at the time. Yeah. But after the children were a little bit grown up, after the first one went to school, then she had a small business selling accessories, women's accessories. And she had a small shop. She did very well because she brought an innovation into how these things were sold in Singapore. Yeah. And she actually did very well. So we had an even more comfortable life after that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Then this one says, I'm a civil engineer and an academic staff in Chiang Mai Institute of Technology in Ethiopia. How can I be a member of WAiC? Okay, since you fill the form, we would reach out to you. Since you fill the form and your details are there, we'll reach out to you. And okay, someone is saying, when you talked about coming to Ghana, person is saying, is it an open invitation? Is it to all of us?
Yeah, so let me know. So I'll be there. I'll let patients have my number, so I'll be there.
Yeah.
And yeah, you can always come and visit.
Okay, it's all right. Thanks so much, Sir Prof. So it's an open invitation to everyone on the platform. So
yeah.
this
So maybe WAiC will want to do something in Ghana at that time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, so, WAiC. Oh, you mean? Oh,
yeah, we'll talk about it, patients.
Oh, okay, yeah. Prof. Okay, Prof. This one says, I'm glad to join this interesting conversation. Interestingly, in 2017, I did a research on challenges of women participation in the practice of building profession, where I discovered that inadequate or lack of mentoring for women contributes to low participation of women in the practice of building profession in Nigeria. This finding can be generalized across the world. The conversation today with Prof attests to it. Okay, he's just making a comment to say we need more female mentors. Yeah, I think that's what he's saying. More female mentors to encourage participation in the industry.
Yeah.
Okay, I think that's about all we have. I'm interested and need help from you, not only PhDs. Okay, this is one collaboration. Yes, GettingNet will reach out to you. For your needs, research needs, and all of that. Since we have your contacts, we'll reach out to you. Yes. So let me still see if there are other questions. As you said, Prof, you started from the top. You also had mentors who helped you. How can we create such opportunities on our own?
Yes. So I think it's a big question, but I think all of us who are here on this platform, who are actually involved in this conversation, let us. So there was something I was going to say. Let us. I wouldn't say pledge, but let us have this feeling and this commitment that it's actually, if not a responsibility, it's actually something that we should want to do to bring up our next generation of researchers and our next generation of practitioners with good practice, with the aspiration to actually do better than we did. Yeah, and this is where mentoring comes in, and this is where coaching comes in, this is where support comes in, and this is where we should do whatever we can, to enable those who are aspiring to reach a good level in our industry and in academia, and can actually be able to do so. Yeah. So we do our part, is what I would say. Yeah, and that I believe is what the questioner is asking.
Thanks, Prof. We have this one. Prof, please, how do we connect with PhD supervisors? Should we email them? And what criteria should we follow?
Okay. Okay, so it's also necessary to know the habit of your supervisor. So when is it and how is it that when, okay, so what approach works very well for the supervisor? And that's what you should be using. So, so I studied during the old-fashioned time where you needed to make an appointment to see your supervisor, so I had to do that. And so if I went without an appointment, I wouldn't be sure whether he would be there or not. Okay, and so study your supervisor or find out from your supervisor which is the best way to reach the supervisor, and I think he or she will make it clear to you, how best you can actually reach the person. My students now know that you send me an email and I'll respond, and we actually have to set a time that is mutually convenient for all of us, and then we will meet. Yeah.
I'm thinking that another thing she's trying to say, or he, is that how do they reach out? Is it that a person has a liberty, a professor student has a liberty to reach out to supervisor? I'm thinking that is also another angle to look at the question.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
just thinking.
Yeah, okay. But then I think, as supervisor says, we should always be willing to help.
Okay. It's okay. We have this other question saying, how can women in the industry be motivated to join the academics? Also, how can women in the academia tackle microaggression, that is master suppression?
Yeah. Okay. So I think this may be because we only have 5 minutes left. This may be the time where you have your open discussion about women.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we have 5 minutes, but we can still go a little bit longer.
Yeah,
if
but
you have the time.
Some may be committed. Some people may be committed.
Have some other commitments. Okay. So we have 3 issues to discuss.
Then you can discuss the last question that has
okay.
been. Yeah.
Okay. So, Prof, you suggested I open the floor for people to discuss this question.
Especially for the question about women.
Okay. So the floor is open now. We really love to hear people's views about this, particularly our colleagues from other parts of the globe. For us in Africa, our society is more patriarchal, and that's why I'm thinking that the group of women Prof met the other time, or maybe their society has moved a bit, away from being too patriarchal. But for us, some of us, we still feel that's patriarchal thing, and we feel it in the industry. And so we want to hear views from other persons across the globe, issues of work-life balance, issues with women, aggression in the industry, if they are the same experiences or if they are different. So the floor is open. Anyone can actually speak, but we also want to hear from colleagues across the globe. Yes. So anyone that wants to share is free to unmute him or herself.
Hi, my name is Rukaya. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, yeah, so I'm speaking from the UK. I've been in the UK for close to 20 years now. Thank you, Prof. I'm a fellow Ghanaian.
Okay.
Yes, I'm based in the University of Salford. And
okay.
I want to touch on what Patience just said about aggression or microaggression in the African context is that can be traced to patriarchy. For me, I beg to differ. I think having been here for quite a long time, microaggression is a human thing. I think it's a human thing, and it's predominant, or it is heightened in the construction industry, and perhaps it's just industry culture, that kind of dog-eat-dog approach. You've got to make some profit, and so if you can, to use a crude word, squeeze somebody in order to do that, then that kind of work will come up. And so I will really hesitate to put microaggression down to patriarchy. I think it's a human issue, and our industry kind of hasn't frowned upon that much. And so, yeah, because here you deal with people from all sorts of backgrounds, and you see microaggression in various people who are not even African descent. So how do we explain that? Is it patriarchy as well? Perhaps you could say, well, if they have a similar culture to us back home, then it is. But in some cases, these people do not have the same cultural, ties as we do have. So what do you put it down to? It has to be something more than patriarchy. I think I would say it's just a human thing, and where somebody is just bent on getting their own way and succeeding in their own little corner, then that will flare up as a way of getting an advantage over you. Because I also grew up in Ghana. I spent almost 23 years of my life in Ghana before relocating to the UK. And I've dealt with men in the work context who weren't aggressive in any way, who were very supportive. And so how do I explain that? Yeah, so that is just my contribution.
Thanks so much. Thanks so much. Yes, so it's not an African thing. It's a human thing. It's not a patriarchal thing. Thanks so much. Any thoughts, any other ideas on that? Anybody wants to share? Anyone wants to share? Okay, we also have, there's a question that when we take a stand towards what is right, we tend to become a victim of male ego for years. How do we cope with it?
Yeah.
Also an open discussion for everyone. So these are experiences that people are trying to share. So anyone wants to contribute? And also the fact that I also want us to also discuss the issue of Industry 4.0, because one of the technologies in Industry 4.0 enables people to work virtually. And there's been the talk of there's been the advocacy for a more flexible work for women, for everyone actually, but especially for women. We're thinking, would Industry 4.0 actually help us achieve this flexible work-life balance that people have advocated for years? Would it help work-life balance, or would it also encroach unnecessarily without having boundaries? So we could also discuss that as well. With Industry 4.0 actually eliminate the challenges of women in the industry, or not. So we could quickly just address this issue before the time we have before we round up, we shut down. So anyone wants to share? Okay, someone says research informs teaching and vice versa. How can non-academic professionals go about research and make an impact in practical areas in the industry?
Hello.
Hello. Yes. You can have the floor, sir.
Yeah. Good evening. This is Amos Haruna.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, sir. Go on, please.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, this is Amos Haruna. I'm a PhD student and also a lecturer in Nigeria. PhD student here at Makerere University. Prof, thank you for your insights, contribution. I have heard that you have come to Makerere before for one engagement.
Oh, yes.
In times past. Yeah. I want to just talk about this issue of microaggression. I happened to come across it just last year when I underwent a PhD mentorship program for whole of the year with Swedish University of Agriculture. Yeah, so I'm trying to envisage areas that microaggression manifests itself in academia. Yeah, because when it comes to research or promotions like that, and then you find out that like you said, when a woman achieves something, sometimes the credit is not given to her based on her abilities or based on her capacity to perform. Sometimes it's attributed to some other people who contributed to assist her. So how can we actually tackle these issues? Because I think women are going a lot when it comes to giving what it is due to them. Yeah. Yeah, I'm done.
Yes, thank you, Prof. You can just kindly respond to his question. I think he was directing the question to you.
Okay. So he wasn't wanting a general discussion.
Well, okay.
Okay. So
I need an expert contribution.
No. Okay. Yeah. Well, thank you. So for me as an academic, I would expect that all academics who are involved in any particular study, any particular piece of work, actually get the same. I mean, the amount of credit that is in comments. That is in proportion of their contribution to it. So first name author, second name author, and so on. All these should reflect how much people contributed to the study. All right. And I think anything else is not academically honest. And therefore, if someone does work and the person is not given the credit for it, but other people claim the credit, then that is actually academically dishonest. And that is not, it will not be integrity in this particular situation. All right. And I think it will be appropriate, number one, and certainly it shouldn't happen. Yeah. But as to how you prevent it, I have no idea. But what I would say is it is not good practice for people to be cheated out of their contribution and not be given the credit for it. Yeah.
Thank you, Prof. There's one more question here. It says, can the use of digital technologies bridge the gap between gender inequalities in the construction industry? Can women still work in academia and still hold positions in the industry? Or is it best to choose and focus on, is it best to choose and focus on one?
Yeah. Well, the practice in terms of industry and the academic field, it differs from country to country. In some countries, for practice-based fields like construction, you actually are required to practice, or law, or accountancy, or other kinds of things. You actually are required to practice and then to also work. And for example, especially in architecture, it's quite common in some places. But where but I would say, I think in most places, the academic is actually expected to devote 100% of their time to working in either teaching or research. Yeah. So the question is whether it is advisable to do one or the other. The question is, if you actually are allowed to do so, it is possible to also, I wouldn't say borrow from, but actually apply some of the things that you learn or do in practice in doing your research. That's possible. One can be taken from the other. The question is the balance of time, number one, and your intention as to whether eventually you want to be an academic or you want to remain in industry. Yeah. And secondly, also whether it's actually legal, it's allowed, whether the university supports you to do that. I mean, some universities do.
I hope that answers your question. So I don't know if there are any questions on the chat. I think I've answered all. Anyone has any question before we shut down? Thank you for all the sharing. What do you think is the most important ability of a PhD student?
Yeah. Okay. So on this one here, it's just a bias on my part, because I think everybody will look at a different thing. On this part here, what I would say is this: because in doing a PhD, our intention is to try and see how we can also make a contribution to the development of knowledge. I would say that is actually the part that the PhD, that is, to me, is the most important part that the PhD student can do.
Oh, okay. Thanks, Prof.
All right, so that would be the one, but then I'll also go on to practice, because we are in a practice-based industry. All right, so whatever we're doing in terms of the recommendations we're making, we must make sure that, again, going back to the word difference, we should make sure that we're making a contribution and a difference to how industry does things, so that after our PhD, things will be done better because of our PhD. Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Prof. We have this from Ling Florence, who says, Prof. Ofori was my PhD supervisor. May I say something about Prof. Ofori's supervision? Sure, please share. Yes, you have the floor, Florence.
Hello, everyone. I'm Florence Ling. Can you hear me? I'm calling from Singapore.
Yes, we can hear you.
Hello, Professor Ofori.
Hello.
I'm so pleased that a talk like this has been organized and you have the chance to share so many things with us. I want to.
So Florence, the audio is not very good, but I think we should still you should still speak.
Is it better now?
It's still not good, but go on speaking. There's a bit of there's an echo.
Okay. Prof. Ofori was my PhD supervisor in the 1980s, and he, sorry, 1990s, and he is he is still my mentor. So there was this question about how do we deal with difficult supervisors. I want to say that I really do not know this answer because Prof. Ofori is a supervisor sent from heaven. He just does correctly that I do not know how to deal. I do not really. I totally do not know what to do if you have a horrid supervisor, except pray that you will have a supervisor like Prof. Ofori. The second thing I want to say is that in the more than 30 years of my career, and I worked with Prof. Ofori for quite long after that, he never once tried to get his name in any publication. He never ever hinted, I never felt any pressure from him that my publications have his name. And so it pains me now to see some of the people that I know and they are in this audience whom their supervisors insist that they either be the first author or they must be the corresponding author. It pains me. There was once I told my PhD student, you have done a very good paper, now go on to publish it without my name. And that student cried because he thought that he did something wrong. But it was not. It was because I learned from Professor Ofori not to be so greedy to get my name in the paper. And that is what Professor Ofori has done for me. And I hope that those of you who are listening in, not to torture your PhD students like that. Think on the first author or the corresponding author. And my last point is that Professor Ofori really lived up to what he said, and that is I see him as my father today. Even though I'm very old, I just call him up to complain with no agenda. And sometimes when I tell him something, he will say, I think this calls for another meeting. And so this is how wonderful Professor Ofori is, and I'm just so blessed for all these deserved blessings that I have gotten from Prof. Ofori. Yeah. And he didn't pay to say all this.
Thanks so much, Florence. It was so encouraging to hear this beautiful report about Prof.
Yeah.
So encouraging to hear. Thanks so much, Florence. Thank you so much. There's one from another comment. I worked on BEAM in my undergraduate thesis in 2019, and I cited Prof in my work so many times. He is indeed a blessing to the construction industry. I wondered all along how his work aligned so much with a future he may not even be too familiar with. I hope to meet him physically someday. Okay, Prof will be in Ghana, so we'll try to catch up with him in Ghana sometimes in the year.
For patients, we'll be trying to organize something in Accra. Yeah, we'll see. Okay,
Prof. Thanks so much, Prof. My question was well answered. I need to leave. Okay, this is a comment. She needs to leave. Yeah. Also wishing to meet you physically someday. Yes, I think we've come full circle. If I don't know if there are other comments, like Prof did mention, other people might have other things to do because the meeting was scheduled to end at 1. Yeah, I think we should quickly take a photo.
Yeah, but let me say something before before we go. Yes. So there was a question about how does someone in practice come into academia. So Florence, the one who just spoke, he's an example of someone who finished, graduated, went to work in practice while he was practicing, did her master's, and then came into academia. Okay, and then did a PhD, and then went on to big things.
Wow.
Yeah, which I think she'd be a little bit embarrassed if I were to say. But I will still go on and say that Florence is actually, she's someone I taught at the undergraduate level, because I've known her since she was 18, 19 years old. So that's where. So I taught her at undergraduate, and then I was also her PhD supervisor as well later on. Okay, and then she became my colleague. I mean, she was my colleague while she was doing her PhD. Right? But Florence then became vice dean of our school.
Wow.
And then, well, became something even bigger. So she became a vice provost at, at the university. Yeah.
Wow.
Okay, so she was vice provost for student life at the National University of Singapore. Now, remember, National University of Singapore is number 11, number 12 in the world. Okay, so then I'm saying this because I was going to say, what are the 3 things that make me now today very happy? It's because of my own students and what they've done. And so when I hear, so I like to say, in fact, my provost says so, that she says she has a lot of academic children and academic grandchildren. I like to say that I have a lot of academic children and academic grandchildren, male and female as well. And especially my latest academic grandchild is someone who Florence supervised, recently just became professor at the University of Syracuse in the US. Yeah. So we're not talking about small universities also. So these are the kind of things that bring me joy. Yeah. And not what I have achieved, but what those who come after me have achieved because of a little thing I managed to sow in their lives. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, so that's me done, and I'll be quiet from now on.
No, honestly, we could have had the whole day if not for the restriction of time. Thanks so much, Prof. It's so encouraging to hear this kind of stories, and that's why we thought of having this mentorship chat, so that we too can also become your grandbaby, your grandchildren, and also be impactful. Also, we are really grateful. So just quickly take a picture. As our custom is, let's try and put on our videos so we can see our beautiful faces. Let's put on our videos. Okay, please let your videos be on. Great. Some of us are still
off. Florence, no.
Yes, the count of 3. Can we all say why, so that we need to see our smiles?
Okay.
Yes, just operations. You're taking the pictures.
Yeah, you can go on. You can go
on. 1, 2, 3. You take it. At the count of 3, let's put on our videos. I can still see many of us and not yet on our videos. Let's see your beautiful faces, handsome faces, please. Okay, at the count of 3, we say WAiC. There's no how you call WAiC and you won't smile. Okay, 1, 2, 3. WAiC.
Yeah.
Good. Yes, we need to take again.
Let's see your video again, please. WAiC.
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 Okay.
Good. Thank you so much.
Thank you all. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, everybody, and all the best to all of you.
Thank you, Professor. Yes, just a quick vote of thanks.
Thank you so much.
Just to quickly appreciate Prof before we leave. Prof, we are grateful and thankful. We do not take this for granted. We don't take it lightly. I know the impact this had made on this network. Just your person alone, it has actually made a lot of impact. And we're thankful we have someone to look up to. The testimonies are amazing to see your students do awesome things. I think that there's no other thing that can give a father joy as to see his children being like him or even almost becoming more than him. So Prof, we are inspired. We'll keep in touch. We'll keep, tying our umbilical cord to you. Because we also want to shine. We also want to be impactful. We also want to learn these things. Thank you so much. And for everyone that has connected with us from all parts of the world, we are grateful. We are fighting the same cause. We are pushing same thing. It's the same thing. And we are grateful for the solidarity, for the support. So we'll keep in touch, and we'll still be up next month by God's grace. We'll share the information and help us share with your network. Thank you so much, everyone. We wish you all the best. Thank you, and see you next month.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you for
everyone.
organizing it. It was great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very
All
much.
right. Bye-bye.
Bye, Prof.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor.
Yeah, okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Prof. We really enjoy your session.
Thank
I hope
you.
to meet you someday.
Yeah, well, I'll come to Nigeria
sir.
one day.
Okay, we look forward to seeing you.
Oh,
Yeah.
good. We
Bye-bye.
love
Thank
that.
you, Patience.
And
Thank you.
when I come to
Patience.
Ghana, I'll make sure I see you. Anytime I come to Ghana, by the grace of God.
All right. Well,
All right.
well done. All
Thank
right.
you so much. And
Bye.
regards to Madam and your beautiful daughters and sons.
That's right. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
sir.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Patience. Bye-bye, everyone.
Okay. Well done, Patience. You did very well.
Thanks so much, Prof.
Yes.
All right. Okay. So we'll just stay in touch.
Yeah, we will. Thanks so much, Prof.
Okay. Yeah.
Best wishes.
Bye-bye.
Yes.
Yeah, you too. Yeah. Bye.
Hello, dear patients. Do you hear me?
Yes, I can. Me too.
Okay, please can you send me the email address?
Oh, okay. Yeah. Trying to call it up.
Can you tell me more about this WAiC? This is the first time for me.
Oh, okay. It's a network for women in academics in the construction industry. Okay, so and the main idea is to promote sound scholarship, that women learn how to write and how to learn what it means to be an academic because of their peculiar challenges. It's not about making women's voices heard, but just to learn what it takes, to be a good academic. Okay, so yeah, that's what it's all about. It's for women academics and also postgraduate students in the construction industry. And it's open to anyone. It's free.
Okay, thanks so much. I have to be part of this.
You said?
I hope to be part of this and contribute as well as get a lot of exchange.
Yeah. Yes, now that I have your email, your WhatsApp number, I would connect you to the platform. And then you have regular updates on meetings monthly.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Okay, let's just send it again because I can't really. Just a minute, please. Sorry. Okay. Seen it? Have you seen it?
Okay. Thank you so much.
Best wishes. Bye all.
Goodbye.